The Sciforror Film Podcast. Good evening, afternoon, day, morning, night, and welcome to the Sciforror Film Podcast. Although I look slightly different to the way I did last time, because I have been deforested, I am Andy Walker, jowls included. And I'm here with my son, Satan, Scott.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's the horns. I can't get it.
I know. All right, look. Problem is, it's going to be weird for anyone that can't see this, but I have realised for anyone that is watching, I have two distinctive bits that I've missed on my hair, and it's right there, and it's annoying me. Yes and no, and nothing I do flattens them down, and I spend more time paying attention to them than I do anything else.
And you put a bit of gel on them, mate. Or
The thing is that, like, I'll keep going. I keep sort of waking up every morning and I know what I'll do. I'll sort them out today. And then stuff happens. And then it gets to the end of the day and I'm like, I still haven't done it.
Shove some lard on them.
I've been lard on my head. Got enough of that in me.
I used to know a guy who was a punk.
So I thought you were going to say you knew a guy once who was a bit of lard.
No, he was a punk and he used to use lard to spike his hair up. But he also used to use spray on hair dye to make it sort of blue. So when it used to rain or he used to sweat in a club, he used to get this blue coloured sort of fat running down the side of his face. And he stank.
Hurt my stomach, guys.
Lovely.
Oh. Right.
Anyway, we are here today to review films, not to talk about lardy-headed people. So, onwards and upwards, as they say. Now, I did make a mistake last week because what I did say last week was that this week we had 3 horror films. But for some reason, I don't know why, I thought the first one was a horror film because it's not. It's a science fiction film.
Yeah, I did think that when I was watching it.
So there you go. So yes, we have 2 short films that are longer run again. And the first one of the short films is from 2022. It's a film called I'm Here. It is from Olympian Productions and another place, something Gardens. I can't remember what it was now. Anyway, terrible.
We do research on this program.
I do research. It's just I forgot to write it down. Yes, it was written and directed by Axel Knight.
Axel Rose?
No, Axel Knight. Oh. And Taylor Schlobohm.
Okay.
The cast is Nico Lemus, Shaq, and Autumn Simone Morgan. It's name, isn't it? The synopsis for this film says, in a post-apocalyptic world ravaged by aliens, a woman leads a lonely existence with her fiancé while trying to stay alive.
So that synopsis is a bit contradictory because you can either be alone or with someone.
Well, she is kind of both.
Yeah, I know, but...
Would think... Oh, God, yawning again.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. It's an okay film, and I like the premise behind it.
Yes.
It's very... I don't know whether or not it's just because of the story or what, but she's very easily persuaded.
Yeah, no, yes.
It's a bit weird because it has that sort of... I don't know, the little bit of a horror aspect with the whole creepiness of the creature. And you only see parts, but yeah, it's I don't know. It's hard to say the full sci-fi genre, apart from the fact that they mention aliens.
Yeah, I mean there are
It's
aliens and it is post-apocalyptic, so yeah,
yeah,
kind of sci-fi.
but it's I don't know. It's a good film, and I like the premise behind it. Cinematography was amazing. The the location looked very. I would say that. But I don't know. It's another one I think was just missing something.
Yeah, I quite like it. Uh, I mean, it's obviously not been made with the biggest budget
No,
or necessarily by the most experienced people, but
no,
as you say, the cinematography is really good. I
yeah.
think the idea is really good. The
Some of
ideas,
the some of the visual effects, like when she turns off the hologram or projector or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
was very well done. But
yeah, the effects are really good. They work really well. It's a good, straightforward kind of film. It's well made, tells a good story, but yeah, it's just a bit kind of like it's all right.
yeah,
It,
it's not so like I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm not glad I watched it, but it's not the one that I've sat there and like, oh, that's a complete and utter waste of my time.
yeah,
It's one that I'm like, okay, yeah, I've watched it. What's next?
yeah, yeah. It's not a bad film. It's not a great film, but it's
No.
all right.
So
It's
there's
okay.
no taken away from the people who made the film. It is a good film, but I think
Yeah,
it's just missing that little something. It's hard to put your finger on what it is, but it is missing that little something. I think.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Okay, on to our second short film, which is again from 2022. This is called Friends Forever.
Yes.
This is on the
Creepy as shit.
indie film producer channel, uh, written and directed by Ian Kyle. The cast is Caitlin Olivia Carter, Tess Gilmore, and Faith Allen. The synopsis for this film says, "Never underestimate the power of a true friend." Jennifer is an artist struggling with tragic circumstances. Things get increasingly frightening as she is confronted with her past face to face. Yes, it is a little creepy, I must admit. The thing that makes it creepier is you don't really know what was going on
Yeah,
before this film. All you get told is that there was somebody who was getting too close to her and was being a bit stalkerish,
yeah. And then all of a sudden she's passed
and
away,
or was she?
and
She took out um
yeah, took out an injunction on
an
her
injunction on her to keep
like
her away from her.
so
And then
of
I'm
like
assuming,
restraining order for anyone in the states and stuff
yeah,
like that. So.
I'm assuming that she committed suicide or
Yeah,
something.
it says on there about the fact that it says half well, sort of in the film that she passed away, but yeah, it's sort of it's not even at the end really when they explain a little bit more. It's not fully explained.
Yeah, and then yeah,
This just is. Don't be wrong. I was saying I like this film. I think it's very well done.
yeah,
The effects to it, the cinematography, like the camera work, it's even the soundscape in it, I think was amazing.
yeah.
I just I'm not scared of them. I don't. It doesn't annoy me. It doesn't get to me anything. I just genuinely don't like dolls that look like that. I I
Yeah, I
don't know
mean,
what it is about them or what. I think it's the eyes, but I just don't like them. And it's
creepy
not
dolls
like I
are a
sat
bit.
there when I see it and I was like, oh, I can't watch it. It was just I was like, this is creepy.
Yeah,
And I knew it was going to be creepy anyway because it says on the synopsis this is with dolls.
yeah,
But
yeah.
so I thought I knew, but this is yeah, it's.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not a bad film. It's not completely original, but it works well.
I would
It's
say
well
as well, I've
done.
never put a box into a room the way that she did.
No, you just sort of step into the room and then leave it in the middle of the floor and step out again. That's a
Yeah,
bit odd. That is a bit odd, I must admit. Um, but yeah, the effects and the acting are pretty good. On the whole, it's a pretty good film.
mm,
It is a bit creepy and a bit weird, and you don't quite know exactly what's going on or why.
no,
Um, but yeah, I mean, for me, it's a bit like the first one, as in, I think it's because of the fact that it's not a completely original idea that
no,
you kind of
it's
left
definitely
feeling a bit like, yeah, I've seen it before.
yeah,
It
it's
wasn't
definitely a
bad,
lot of
but you know,
films that have done this premise before. It's been around for so long. Obviously, you've got Chucky being the main one and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But it's just
But it's, I mean, it's not that it's not a bad film.
no,
There's nothing wrong with the film. It's a well-made, good film. But I think it's just nowadays because you've seen that sort of thing so much, you need something a little bit extra to make it
yeah,
stand out.
yeah, it's definitely just like I do agree. It's not a bad film. It's an amazing film. Like we said, the cinematography for it,
Yeah, yeah,
the visual, the camera angles and the shots they had, and the way that things were um, sort of shown in the background and then sort of hidden and all that, I think were very well done.
yeah,
But yeah, it's not an original idea, and it's been done so many times now that it's getting to the point where yeah, it still creeps people out, but it's now it's another dog film,
yeah,
and
yeah. You need
it's
to
not no
think of the
taken away from the film, but it's just it's not it needs something to push it that little bit to yeah, it's a dog film, but
yeah,
it's got this as well.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. I mean, they're both good films. I just think they need to have just something more.
Yeah,
Okay, on to our third film, which is kind of in the same sort of way, really. This is a film from 2000 called Possessed. Now, this was a TV movie originally.
thanks.
Director is Stephen E. D'Souza, who he was also one of the three writers. It was him, Thomas B. Allen, and Michael Lazaru. Now, Stephen E. D'Souza is mostly known for doing sort of sci-fi action movie stuff more
Yeah,
than straightforward horror. Um, the cast is Timothy Dalton, who is obviously well known for playing James Bond, as we said last week. Uh,
yeah,
Henry Zer- Henry Czerny, who was in Scream 6 and the new Mission Impossible film.
yeah.
So those are the two most recent things he's done. He's been in a lot of other stuff as well. Jonathan Mallon, Michael Rhodes, Shannon Lawson, Christopher Plummer, who's been around forever and has been in hundreds and hundreds of films.
Yeah,
Michael McLaughlin, Richard Waugh, Deborah Drakeford, Piper Laurie, who again has been around since the sort of 50s
yeah.
and has done hundreds of different films of different types. Brad Ballbridge and Rob Tinkler. Love that name, Tinkler. The synopsis for this says, inspired by the true account of a 1949 Catholic Church exorcism performed in America, Possessed tells the story that was suppressed for nearly half a century. Now, firstly, I didn't realise this was made for TV movie. Not that that takes anything away from it, but obviously the production values and the budget are not going to be as big as
Yeah,
they would be for a full sort of like
yeah.
uh, Hollywood film as it normally is. Um, it's a good film. I was
Mm,
impressed by Timothy Dalton because I've never really rated him that much as an actor, and I actually thought he was really good in this.
mm.
Um, the effects were well done. I think, on the whole, I would have liked this more if I wasn't such a big fan of The Exorcist and have seen it so many times because it is an almost identical story, but without as many effects or
Yeah,
as much put into it.
he's basically apart from a couple of odd little tweaks, he's basically a made for TV version of The Exorcist. Yeah, I agree with you. I haven't seen Timothy Dalton in a lot of things, but I think he's acted in this was very well, very good.
Was very good.
He 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 sort of portrayed it very well. Um, I've got to admit, I rate him a bit more now because I know obviously you get to redo things and stuff like that, but having to memorize some of the passages that you have to do, and in Latin as well,
Yeah, yeah,
must have been quite hard. But I don't know. It's another one though. With the child actor, I thought sort of thought I wonder how much of that he loved doing because of the curse words and everything he got to
yeah,
say.
yeah,
But it's I don't know. It's very weird because it shows the opposite side of what a lot of films about with religion in do. Like a lot of films, even if it's horror or whatever, show religion in sort of the good aspects of it, that they never do anything wrong and they're always the one. This is
Yeah,
sort of the whole, the sort of, yeah, they're priests and they're sort of clergy and all that, but there's still that sort of that side of the bits that no one really wants and likes, and
yeah.
they don't like the fact that it's all politics involved.
It's right. I mean, this is what got me was that, like, Christopher Plummer's character is very much he's not a priest anymore. He's a politician.
Yeah,
It's a matter of, like, we've got to keep the public on our side, so we don't want to let them know that these things go
yeah,
on.
it's
You
sad.
know,
It's the whole thing is sort of like, oh, we need to keep this hidden. We can't let it out. We can't, like, as much as people want or need some explanation, we're not going to give it to them because we need to be kept in a good eye.
I
And it's
I
just
did
like,
I did like the fact that they managed to bring in the whole kind of, like, 1950s, because this was sort of set 50s, late
yeah,
50s, and they did manage to bring in the whole kind of racism and segregation thing at the beginning, but then it wasn't talked about anymore.
no,
It's kind of odd. It just seemed a bit weird.
yeah, there was um a few things that would have been acceptable in the 50s that sort of had like brief little glimpses with the whole yeah, racism side of it, the sort of the homosexual bit as well, with everyone's reaction when they said that the bloke living together, and
Yeah,
it's just sort of, and then it was all sort of, that was it. It was done. It was done within a couple of seconds.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
I get the fact that's not what the film was, but
I mean,
it's
I think all it was is that they were trying to give you an insight into the character
yeah,
of the characters without going into too much sort of explanation. So it's like, rather than having to, like, 3 hours of explaining what sort of people they were, they do these little soundbite bits which kind of hopefully show you that he's a nice guy who stands up for the underdog, and he kind of,
well, what I liked as well is it showed another side of it. It's the fact that yes, he was clergy and he was a priest and all that, but he was a chaplain in the war,
yeah,
and it was also another thing that no one really understood or still didn't understand, the whole shell shock thing and PTSD, that fact, and the fact that he
yeah.
was suffering from it as well.
And then he was self-medicating with
Yeah, he was
alcohol.
self-medicating as well, and it's just, but it's one of the things that no one really understood.
Yeah, yeah,
And I like the fact that they added that in. I know it's but added that into it, and
yeah,
it's sort of, especially because obviously now everyone knows about it. Even the sort of people that have been in and around military know the fact that a lot of people suffer with it. But
yeah,
obviously back then, when this was meant to be set, it was still a new thing for people to recognise.
yeah. No, I agree.
So,
I agree. It
so the
was
fact
good
that
that
they added it into
they included that in there. Um, and I mean, as I say, I think it's quite a good film, and I
it.
quite enjoyed watching it. But I couldn't help. I think the big problem I have with it is that as a big fan of The Exorcist, and as I say, I've seen The Exorcist at least, what, 10 times,
Yeah.
and I couldn't help, while I was watching it, in my head, comparing the two.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I I did the same sort of thing with that. Not only with The Exorcist, but with The Exorcist and The Omen and a few other ones that have had the same sort of
Yeah, I know.
different little aspects of the same things into it. And I sat there, it was just like, mm, yeah, I was comparing them all, and
Yeah,
it's sort of, it was, I don't know if it was a bit of a biased thing, or whatever, but again, I like the original Exorcist and some of the other ones they've done, and the other ones they've done, like the other Exorcist films.
yeah.
I really like them, and I did, yeah, I was comparing them, and I was like, yeah, it's very similar.
It's a pity though, because I think, if you could watch this film without doing that automatic comparison in your head, I think this could be a really good film,
Yeah,
and I think
it's
it would be really good, a good film to watch and good to enjoy.
yeah,
And
I,
I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm annoyed in a way, the fact that I can't separate them in my
yeah.
head.
Oh, it's just the thing is as well. I get the fact that what they're saying about the fact that it's horror, and but I don't think it is. I don't feel
Yeah,
it. I get what they're saying with the whole possession side of it and things like that, and I get the fact that there's different things that people class horror as.
yeah.
But I wouldn't say this is a full-on horror that.
Well, it's not a horror in the same way. I mean, it's not as gory even as the
No,
Exorcist. It's a supernatural horror. It's
yeah.
more of a thing like that. But it's yeah, I know what you mean.
So I've got to admit, some of the effects that they've done on it, though, I would say were
Oh
very.
yeah,
And so this is like 23 years old now, and it's some of the effects still stand up and still very well done.
especially as I say, because it's a made-for-TV movie. That the production values of production costs and that sort of thing would be a lot lower than they would have been
Yeah,
for a feature film.
and not only that, but not only the production cost, but obviously the access to certain equipment.
Yeah,
Obviously, movies have got like full-on production teams and like massive things they could do, but this was a TV thing, so they're not going
yeah,
to
yeah,
pay out and use massive like visual effects teams or whatever. So it was still, I was saying, it's still a good film. It stands up with a lot of the stuff. I say there are a few aspects in it that obviously was just because of what time it was meant to be set in. But
mm,
again, I think that was very very well handled. So it's not it.
yeah,
It's to understand the fact that that's what time it is, but it's not so much in your face that it's going to cause a problem for anyone watching it.
yeah, yeah. I enjoyed watching it. I'm not upset that I watched it, but
No,
I'm kind of annoyed with myself that I can't separate it from
yeah,
The Exorcist and other things like that. So it's an annoyance for
I think
me more
that's
than it is
I
anything
think
else.
that's another problem is the fact that as much as this is a good film, it's another film as well as The Exorcist that there's other ones that have been done so many times of the same thing.
Yeah.
It's almost now getting to the
Well,
point where it's
I'm
another
sure.
film, not
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen at least two other films that are supposedly based on exactly the same
yeah.
exorcism. So you just it's
Yeah, there's so many different aspects to it, and but
yeah,
it's constant. It's the same. It's another Exorcist film, and it's
yeah,
just if they it's the same. Not taking away from it. If they just put something a little bit more onto it, it would have been
yeah.
a very very good film.
I think it's
It's still a good
interesting
film.
because I think all three of the films we watched this week all just had something they needed just a little bit more to make
Yeah,
them a bit, make them really stand out and really good.
yeah. No, I agree.
Oh well, there you go. Right, so there we are. We had short films. We had I'm Here, which we thought was a good film, but needed just a little bit extra. Friends Forever, which we agreed was a good film, but I was going to say I think it just needed something to pull it out of being just an ordinary spooky doll film.
Yeah,
And Possessed, which is it's a good film, a good exorcism type film, and that, but it just kind of needs something extra because for me, it just didn't measure up to The Exorcist at all.
yeah. It's definitely a good film, and if it's definitely one to watch if you can pull yourself away from separating it from The
yeah,
Exorcist.
if you can find some way of separating you in your head,
Yeah,
then it's not a bad film to watch. It's well acted and well made.
yeah.
Okay, well there we go. Thank you very much for your input
It's okay.
as always. Next week we've got more. I think we're doing three horrors again next week, or next week we'll be doing three horrors rather than a sci-fi two horrors. More horror.
Yeah.
Um, yes, so that's what we will be doing. Thank you to anybody and everybody watching, listening, following it in braille, um,
Mime along.
um, watching watching out for semaphore signals, reading smoke dolphins, um, or message pigs, or anything else for all that matters, and everything. Please get in touch and let us know what you think. Let us know you're
Yes.
there. Let us know we're here. Now, we may only be figments of our imagination. Let us know we're not, or let us know who we are.
Let us know as well if you think we're figments of your imagination.
I'm beginning to think that I'm actually AI generated, but I'm not absolutely certain. Anyway, in the meanwhile, and under the over and down, we'll be back, and hopefully somebody out there is watching. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
The Sciforror Film Podcast.